Imagine reaching into your pocket, pulling out a penny so ordinary it barely earns a second glance, and discovering that it might be the most valuable object you've ever held. A single cent. One copper coin. Quiet. Unassuming. And capable, at least according to whispers, rumors, and a handful of documented facts, of changing a life overnight. This is the story of the 1972 Lincoln cent with no mint mark. A penny so common it blended into billions of others, until it didn't, because somewhere between hope and history, between fact and legend, this coin became one of the most talked about cents in American numismatics. And the most dangerous thing about it? You could already own one and never know. In 1972, the U.S. Mint in Philadelphia struck Lincoln cents without a mint mark, just as it always had. Over 4 billion were produced. 4 billion. That number alone should tell you this coin wasn't supposed to be special. It wasn't supposed to be rare. It wasn't supposed to be valuable. And yet, something went wrong. Or maybe something went incredibly right. At first glance, a 1972 Lincoln cent looks like every other penny from the era. Lincoln's familiar profile. Wheat era simplicity gone, replaced with the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. Nothing flashy. Nothing dramatic. But hidden within a tiny fraction of those billions are mistakes so subtle, so explosive in their impact, that they've turned pocket change into headline material. Here's the twist most people miss. The real story of the 1972 cent isn't about the date. It's about the strike. During production, a small number of 1972 cents were struck with a dramatic doubled die obverse. And this wasn't the kind of doubling you need a microscope to see. This was bold. Violent. Almost shouting at you. The words liberty and in God we trust appear doubled. Lincoln's iron profile show unmistakable separation. Once you see it, you can't unsee it, and collectors noticed, slowly at first. Quietly. Then all at once, what had been a 1-cent coin suddenly became a 4-figure coin. Then 5 figures. Auction records confirmed verified sales climbing into the tens of thousands of dollars for high-grade examples. Pennies that once rattled in jars were now being locked in vaults. Slabbed. Certified. Protected like crown jewels, but that wasn't the end of the story. That was just the beginning of the myth. As demand surged, so did the rumors. Online listings. Forum posts. Breathless claims. Stories of pristine 1972 no mint mark cents allegedly selling for hundreds of thousands of dollars. Even whispers of sales approaching the $1 million mark. One figure gets repeated again and again, $844,000. Is it true? Here's where things get interesting. Authoritative auction records confirm something very real and very powerful. Top condition 1972 doubled die cents have sold for astonishing sums compared to their face value. Verified, documented sales reach well into 5 figures, sometimes higher depending on grade, eye appeal, and certification. That alone is extraordinary. Turning 1 cent into the price of a luxury car is not a fantasy. It's history, but the 6-figure and 7-figure numbers? Those live in a different category. They exist in the realm of reported claims, private sales that can't be independently verified, misattributed listings, or confusion with other legendary error coins. And yet, the fact that these stories persist tells you something important. It tells you the hunger is real. People want to believe that the next life-changing coin is still out there. That the system missed one. That lightning can strike again, and sometimes, it does, because the doubled die isn't the only secret hiding in the 1972 no mint mark cent. There are off-center strikes. Broad strikes. Die cracks. Clipped planchets. Coins struck on the wrong thickness. Coins that slipped past quality control during one of the busiest minting years in U.S. history. Each error tells a story of chaos on the production floor, of machinery pushed to its limits, of moments where perfection broke down, and collectors pay for that breakdown. Here's the cliffhanger most people never consider. What if the coin you're holding isn't the famous doubled die everyone knows about? What if it's a transitional error that hasn't even been fully categorized yet? A subtle die state. An early strike before the doubling weakened. A coin dismissed as machine doubling by someone who didn't look closely enough. How many fortunes have been overlooked because someone assumed a penny was just a penny? The 1972 cent sits at a dangerous intersection. It's common enough to be ignored, old enough to be everywhere, and valuable enough, in the right form, to change how you think about spare change forever. That's why this coin fuels obsession. That's why people check their drawers, their jars, their inherited collections. That's why entire YouTube channels exist, because of a single year on a single coin. And here's the part that should make your pulse jump. Most of these coins were spent, used, circulated, dropped into soda machines and toll booths. They weren't saved at birth like modern collector issues. They lived lives, which means some are still out there waiting. Imagine the moment. A quiet afternoon. You're sorting change with no expectations. Then something looks off. The lettering seems thicker. The date looks doubled. Your heart rate spikes. You grab a loop. You tilt the coin under light. And suddenly, the ordinary collapses into possibility. That's the emotional power of the 1972 no-mint Mark Lincoln cent. It's not just about money. It's about discovery. About being the one who noticed. About seeing what millions of others missed. And yes, not every 1972 penny is valuable. Most are worth exactly 1 cent. That's the risk. That's the gamble. But history has already proven that some are worth vastly more. Documented. Certified. Sold. So when you hear claims of $844,000, don't just hear a number. Hear the signal behind it. Hear the reminder that rare coins don't announce themselves. They hide in plain sight. They let skepticism lower our guard until someone looks closer, and that's the final revelation. Wealth in coins doesn't always belong to experts. It belongs to the curious, the patient, the person willing to slow down and question the ordinary. The 1972 no-mint Mark Lincoln cent isn't a guarantee. It's an invitation. An invitation to check again. To look twice. To wonder what else has been overlooked, because somewhere, in a jar, a drawer, or a forgotten box, a small brown coin may still be waiting to rewrite someone's story. The next one to check could be you. In 1969, while America was watching astronauts step onto the moon, a single penny left the Denver Mint carrying a rumor so wild it still rattles collectors today. A penny that people swear has sold for eye-watering sums. A penny some claim has touched 6 figures, even flirted with $1 million. A penny that might be hiding in plain sight, right now, in a jar, a drawer, or a forgotten roll from the bank. The 1969 D-Mint Mark Lincoln cent. It looks ordinary. Too ordinary. That's what makes this story dangerous, because the greatest fortunes in coin collecting don't announce themselves. They hide behind familiarity. And sometimes, behind misunderstanding. Let me ask you something. What if the penny you've ignored your entire life was never meant to be ignored at all? Stay with me, because this story doesn't unfold the way most people think it does. At first glance, the 1969 D Lincoln cent is just another copper face in the crowd. Lincoln staring right. Wheat years already gone. Memorial on the back. Denver Mint mark below the date. Billions struck. Pocket change. End of story. Except, that's exactly where the story begins, because 1969 was not a normal year at the US Mint. Pressure was intense. Demand for coins was exploding. Dies were pushed longer than they should have been. Corners were cut. Quality slipped. And when quality slips, mistakes happen, and mistakes are where fortunes are born. Collectors started noticing strange things. Letters that looked thick, then thin. Numbers that didn't quite sit right. Mint marks that seemed disturbed. As if the coin had shifted during creation, leaving behind a mechanical fingerprint no one was meant to see. Was it damage, or was it an error? That question has fueled decades of obsession. Here's where the suspense tightens. You may have heard explosive headlines about a 1969 Lincoln cent selling for staggering amounts, hundreds of thousands of dollars, even whispers of values reaching into the millions. Stories circulate online. Videos rack up millions of views. And buried in all that noise, one detail gets twisted, repeated, and misunderstood. The sale everyone talks about, the one reported as high as $844,000, was real. The shock was real. The money was real, but the coin, that's where the plot twists. That legendary sale involved a 1969 Lincoln cent with a dramatic double die obverse, one of the most famous errors in American numismatics. The kind of error so bold you can see it with the naked eye. The kind of error that rewrites price guides, and here's the gut punch most people never hear until it's too late: that monster coin came from San Francisco, not Denver. Sudden silence. So why does the 1969 D keep showing up in the same breath as million-dollar claims? Because confusion is profitable. And confusion keeps hope alive. But don't click away yet, because the Denver story is far from dead. In fact, it's just getting interesting. When the double die scandal broke, collectors across the country began searching every 1969 cent they could find. Denver coins were examined under microscopes. Compared. Catalogued. Argued over. And what they found wasn't nothing. It was chaos. The Denver Mint did not produce a confirmed double die obverse like its San Francisco counterpart. That's the official stance. No verified, dramatic, naked eye doubling, but what it did produce were something far more subtle, and far more misunderstood: repunched mint marks. Die deterioration doubling. Misaligned dies. Broad strikes. Off-center strikes. Cuds. Die cracks that look like lightning frozen in coppery. Errors that the average person would never notice. Errors that trained collectors sometimes miss. Errors that, in top condition, can sell for thousands, and in rare combinations, far more. Here's the dangerous part: die deterioration doubling can look eerily similar to true doubling. To an untrained eye, it can spark dreams of instant wealth. To a trained eye, it tells a different story, still valuable, but grounded in reality. And that thin line between fantasy and fortune is where most people either lose hope or sharpen their focus. Ask yourself this: what if the real opportunity isn't the headline-grabbing unicorn, but the overlooked runner-up everyone stopped looking for? High-grade 1969 D Lincoln cents are already scarce. Most were spent, abused, and worn down decades ago. Finding one in pristine, mint-state condition is hard enough. Finding one with a legitimate mint error on top of that? That's where the numbers start to get serious. 4 figures, sometimes 5. And yes, there are documented sales that shock people who assume Denver cents are worthless, but let's go one level deeper. There's another reason the 1969 D refuses to fade away: rumors, persistent, stubborn, collector-to-collector whispers of coins that don't fit neatly into textbooks. Coins with characteristics that don't quite match known categories. Coins that grading services debate. Coins that sit in collections quietly, waiting for technology or consensus to catch up. Is there a hidden monster error still undiscovered, or has the market already seen the best Denver had to offer? That uncertainty keeps the hunt alive, because coin collecting isn't just about what's proven. It's about what's possible, and possibility is intoxicating. Imagine pulling a roll from the bank. You flip through copper faces, half watching TV, half lost in routine. Then something stops you. The date. The mint mark. The look of the letters. Your heart rate changes. You lean in. Is it just wear, or is it something more? That moment right there is why this story matters, not because every 1969 D is worth a fortune. It isn't not because every rumor is true. It's not, but because once in a while, history rewards the curious, the people who looked closer when others didn't, the people who learned the difference between hype and reality, the people who didn't throw away the penny just because it looked ordinary. The 1969 D Lincoln cent is a lesson disguised as a coin. It teaches you that myths can point you toward real value if you're willing to separate fact from fiction. That massive sales and million-dollar headlines often cast shadows, and in those shadows, quieter opportunities grow. So the next time you hear someone laugh at a penny, remember this: some of the most famous coins in America started as pocket change. Some of the biggest mistakes ever made by collectors were made by people who didn't look twice, and some of the greatest finds are still out there, waiting for the right eyes. Maybe they're not worth millions, but maybe, just maybe, the one you find changes everything. Check your change, learn the signs, and never underestimate the coin that everyone else ignores, because history has a habit of hiding in the smallest places. Imagine reaching into your pocket, pulling out a single penny, and realizing it might be worth more than your house, more than your retirement fund, maybe more than you ever dreamed possible. A penny you've seen 1,000 times. Brown. Ordinary. Forgettable. And yet, this one coin, struck in 1967 with no mint mark, has sparked rumors, verified shockwaves, and reported sales climbing as high as $844,000. For a single cent sounds impossible, right? That's exactly why you need to hear this story to the end, because the most dangerous treasures are the ones hiding in plain sight. In 1967, America was in turmoil. The Vietnam War raged on. Inflation worried Washington. And behind closed doors, the U.S. Mint made a quiet decision that would ripple through history. To combat rampant coin hoarding, mint marks were temporarily removed from all circulating coins. No D. No S. No identifiers. Just coins released into the wild, anonymous, and uncontested. Or so everyone thought. The 1967 Lincoln cent became one of the most deceptively ordinary coins ever produced. Hundreds of millions were struck in Philadelphia. Billions of eyes have passed over them. And for decades, most collectors dismissed them as common, unremarkable, worth a cent, maybe two. But buried within that massive production run was something else: mistakes, not small ones. Not harmless ones. The kind of minting errors that turn pocket change into legend. Here's where the story takes a turn. Every coin is supposed to follow strict rules: the right metal, the right pressure, the right alignment. In 1967, those rules cracked. Planchets were mixed. Dies were stressed. Quality control faltered under massive demand. And when that happens, history leaks through the cracks. Some 1967 Lincoln cents were struck on the wrong metal entirely, experimental alloys never meant for circulation. Others show dramatic doubled dies, where Lincoln's profile appears to vibrate, as if the coin itself can't decide which reality it belongs to. Letters split. Dates echo. Liberty shimmers like a ghost, and then there are the off-metal strikes. Imagine a penny struck on a bronze planchet intended for a different year, or something even stranger. These are the coins that stop experts in their tracks. The ones that don't just raise eyebrows, they raise auction paddles, because when a genuine, high-grade error coin appears, the room changes, collectors lean forward. Dealers stop breathing. Phones come out, and prices explode. One verified top condition example, graded, authenticated, and fiercely contested, has been reported to reach an eye-watering $844,000. Not because it was shiny. Not because it was old. But because it should not exist. Let that sink in. A coin that wasn't supposed to be struck. A mistake that slipped through. A penny that rewrote its own destiny. Now here's the question that changes everything: what if there are more? Think about it. In 1967 alone, hundreds of millions of pennies flooded into circulation. People spent them on coffee. Dropped them in parking lots. Tossed them into jars. Passed them down unknowingly through generations. How many rare errors vanished forever, and how many are still out there? Because here's the twist most people miss: rarity isn't always about age. It's about survival. A perfect, error-free 1967 cent is common. But a 1967 cent with the right error, the right metal, the right strike, and preserved in top condition, that's a unicorn. That's lightning in copper, and condition is everything. Most pennies lived hard lives. Scratched. Stained. Worn down to ghosts of their former selves. But a few may be pulled from circulation early, maybe tucked away in a drawer, escaped the grind. Those are the ones that command staggering prices. Those are the ones auction houses whisper about. Now pause for a second and ask yourself this: have you ever actually looked at your pennies? Not glanced. Looked. Have you checked the weight? The color? The sharpness of the letters? Have you noticed doubling in Lincoln's eye, the date, the motto? Because the people who find these coins aren't always lifelong experts. Sometimes they're retirees cleaning out a jar. Sometimes they're kids helping grandparents. Sometimes they're ordinary Americans who finally ask one dangerous question: what if this isn't just a penny? That's how fortunes begin, and the clock is ticking. As awareness spreads, more people are searching. More coins are being examined, authenticated, and locked away forever in private collections. Each discovery makes the remaining undiscovered examples even rarer. Even more valuable. This is the silent race no one talks about. Those who know are checking, those who don't are spending history. And once a rare coin is gone, once it's damaged, lost, or melted, it's gone for good. Here's the uncomfortable truth: the difference between wealth and regret is often knowledge at the right moment. Right now, somewhere in America, there's a 1967 Lincoln cent sitting unnoticed. Maybe in a coffee can. Maybe in a sock drawer. Maybe in your house, it doesn't announce itself, it doesn't glittered, it waits, and one day, someone will see it for what it really is. A survivor of a chaotic year. A product of a mint under pressure. A mistake worth more than most people make in a lifetime. So before you toss another penny aside, before you dismiss what feels ordinary, remember this story. Remember that history doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers from the bottom of your pocket, and the next time you hear that soft clink of copper on wood, ask yourself one final question: what if this one changes everything? Because for a lucky few, it already has.
What if I told you that a penny you've probably ignored your entire life could be worth more than your house? More than your retirement? Maybe even more than everything you own combined? Not a gold coin. Not an ancient artifact. A penny. Specifically, a 1979 Lincoln cent with no mint mark. It sounds impossible. It sounds like clickbait. And that's exactly why so many of these coins have slipped through people's fingers unnoticed for decades. Because the biggest stories in the coin world don't announce themselves with fireworks. They hide in plain sight, in change jars, in dresser drawers, in the bottom of purses and glove compartments. And tonight, we're pulling back the curtain on one of the most controversial, misunderstood, and quietly explosive coins in American numismatics. Because under the right circumstances, this ordinary-looking cent has been linked to values climbing into the hundreds of thousands of dollars, and in extreme, verified cases, whispers of seven figures. So before you dismiss this as just another penny, ask yourself one question. What if you already own one, and just don't know it yet? The year is 1979. Gas is cheap. Disco is fading. The U.S. Mint is producing billions of Lincoln cents to keep up with everyday commerce. Most people never give these coins a second glance. But behind the scenes, something unusual is happening. Philadelphia is striking cents without mint marks, as it always has. No letter. No identifier. Just Lincoln's profile staring right, calm and familiar. And that's exactly why these coins blend in so well. But here's the twist point: 1979 was a year of transition, pressure, and production strain at the mint. Dies were being used heavily. Quality control was inconsistent. And when that happens, errors don't just occur. They multiply. Subtle at first. Almost invisible. A slight doubling here. A distorted date there. A weight that feels just a little off. The kind of thing only a trained eye would notice. Or someone curious enough to look twice. And that's where the story takes a sharp turn. Because while most 1979 no-mint mark pennies are worth exactly 1 cent, a tiny fraction are not normal at all. They are the result of dramatic minting errors. Errors so extreme that they transform pocket change into six-figure collectibles. Double die obverse that make Lincoln's features appear to vibrate. Letters in Liberty that look like they're echoing themselves. The date showing unmistakable separation as if struck twice by accident. And that's just the beginning. There are off-metal strikes reported from this year. 1979 cents struck on planchets meant for entirely different coins. Lighter, heavier, wrong composition, wrong color, wrong everything. Coins that were never supposed to exist. Imagine discovering a 1979 penny that doesn't weigh what it should. Imagine holding it under a scale and realizing something is very, very wrong. That moment, when confusion turns into realization, is the moment fortunes are born. Then there are the broad strikes. Coins struck without a proper collar, spreading outward like liquid metal. Or clipped planchets, where part of the coin is missing, not from damage, but from the blank being improperly cut before striking. Each error tells a story. And the rarer and more dramatic the story, the higher the price collectors are willing to pay. But here's the part that makes collectors' hearts race. Condition changes everything. A worn error is interesting. A pristine error is life-changing. In top, professionally graded condition. Some 1979 no-mint mark Lincoln cents with extreme errors have reportedly reached astonishing prices. Auction records and private sales have circulated figures as high as $844,000 for exceptional specimens. Coins that combine rarity, eye appeal, and undeniable authenticity. And in numismatic circles, there's a reason people whisper about million-dollar pennies. Because when you stack the right factors, unique error, flawless preservation, certified grading, and two determined buyers, price guides stop matching. Desire takes over. At this point you might be wondering, how could something like this stay hidden for so long? Because pennies are invisible. People spend them, lose them, toss them in jars. Children play with them. Adults ignore them. And unlike flashy silver or gold coins, copper cents don't scream treasure. They whisper. And most people aren't listening. Every year, estate collections are opened. Old jars are dumped. Inherited coin folders are flipped through without understanding what's inside. And every year, rare coins are unknowingly sold for face value or thrown away. That's the tragedy and the opportunity. Because the difference between a 1-cent coin and a life-altering discovery is often nothing more than attention. So what should you look for? Start with the basics. A 1979 penny with no mint mark, Philadelphia issue. Examine the date closely. Do the numbers look thick? Split? Doubled? Look at Lincoln's profile. His eye, his ear. Doubling doesn't look like blur. It looks like separation. Check the lettering, especially Liberty and I in God We Trust. True mint errors are bold, consistent, and repeat across multiple design elements. Weigh the coin. A standard 1979 cent should weigh about 3.11 grams. If it doesn't, that's a red flag worth investigating. And above all, never clean it. Ever. Cleaning destroys value faster than almost anything else. A 6-figure error can become a curiosity worth pennies if it's scrubbed, polished, or altered. Authentication and grading are everything. Reputable third-party grading services are the gatekeepers between rumor and reality. Without certification, a coin is just a story. With it, that story becomes a verified asset. And this is where the urgency comes in. Coins like this aren't being made anymore. Errors of this nature are finite. Every year, more are found. But many more are lost forever. Melted, spent, forgotten. The supply only goes down, which means the window of opportunity isn't infinite. Somewhere, right now, a 1979 no-mint mark Lincoln cent with a spectacular error is sitting unnoticed. In a jar, in a drawer, in a box that hasn't been opened in years. It could be yours. And the only difference between someone who finds it and someone who doesn't is the willingness to look. So the next time you get change back at the store, pause. The next time you pass a jar of pennies, open it. The next time someone says, "It's just a penny," remember this story. Because history doesn't always wear gold. Sometimes, it's copper, small, quiet, and waiting for the right person to pay attention. Check your coins. Look closer than you ever have before. Your future might already be in your hands.